Hey everybody, it's Marcia O'Connor here, and I am back with Top 3, where entrepreneurs share their secrets and their mistakes. Today, once again, we have a fantastic guest and a dear friend of mine, Sally Derstine, who is co-founder and current president of Delaware Valley Family Business Center. And they do a lot with family businesses, and we're going to have her talk a little bit more about that. But Sally, welcome to the show.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Marcia.
Always my pleasure to see you, my dear. And congratulations, you have a new website that takes a lot of work and time. And you one of our colleagues, one of your sponsors, is actually helping you out with that. They did a nice job. But let's go into tell me more about what the Delaware Valley Family Business Center does for specifically for family businesses.
Yes. Okay, so all we do day in and day out, 24/7, we work with family businesses to help them transition from one generation to the next. We help them with leadership issues, with family issues, because that's often the most difficult issues.
Hmm.
And also sometimes we free the prisoners. Sometimes not everyone really wants to be there, but they get caught up in it. So we do really anything family business, and we have a large network. So if we can't address something, we pull in someone else, like you, Marcia.
Thanks. Yeah, we love working with you guys, and we've learned an awful lot about family businesses and how they work. And actually, I would say about 10% of my companies we work with are probably family business, and there's a different dynamic than just like having a solo entrepreneur like myself with a team. But you've been doing it for a long time. What gets you excited about working in that world?
Oh, I love it. I just can't say how much I love it. I kind of fell into the business here, but I grew up in a family business. And what I love is that, I can make an impact for generations of families. I love people, I love relationships, and I love messiness. So it allows me to really get in the inner workings of families and relationships and structures and governance and really walk alongside families as they figure out how they want to structure. And you see behind me are our five mountains. As you know, Marcia, it's our process. So we're always dealing with family issues, business issues, ownership issues, board issues, and
Mhm.
then helping to upgrade advisors. So it's pretty messy, complex work. And I'll actually say that I believe that most families really shouldn't be in business together unless they really have a shared dream. So I like to set that off, because if families aren't really all in it together, it can really blow up both the family and the business.
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think a lot of times people think it's so easy. And actually, I think a family business is a lot more difficult because you have emotion involved as well. And I think people have to make some really difficult decisions. And I've heard stories too where, a sibling doesn't talk to another sibling because of it for years. And it's just that's a shame that that has to happen. It doesn't need to happen when they use, like, obviously, organizations like yours to help them understand about the basics and how to communicate and to really have, that I would say expectations set up front versus figuring out like we'll get it down the road kind of a deal. So let me ask you something though, because you work with so many. What are the trends happening right now? Did you see more of an increase in family businesses after COVID, or do you see a decrease? What's going on in that world right now?
That's a great question. I think because people are since COVID, there's a lot more new businesses popping up. And I think what it's so important to always have that entrepreneurial spirit in every person in every generation. And so what I see more and more happening is that maybe they're not staying with the core business, or some folks are staying in the core business, but other family members or even non-family, they're starting other like vertical or horizontal companies to move along, and then each person can have their little bit more autonomy as
Yeah.
well as the collaborative spirit. So it's really, again, coming together if there's an overall vision and values, and then helping each person and maybe each entity thrive. So I see a lot more. We call them, in fact, we're moving to using this language of enterprising families versus just the family business, because some of the businesses we work with are quite large. I mean, they're billion-dollar companies, and they have lots of different entities within the business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I too just heard that the family business is one of the top fastest growing areas of businesses out there, next to basically female businesses. So I think that's a really interesting statistic happening right now. But I've never seen more and more people have businesses on their own than ever before, because now entrepreneurship is cool versus like 15 years ago, it wasn't really cool. It was more looked upon as like a nice to have, or, you're doing it down your downtime and all. So it really has changed quite a bit. In regards to the businesses, if you've been doing it for so long too, what do you think the top like 1 to 2 things that you need to tell like entrepreneurs going through this? And there's probably like a trend or something that you commonly say to them. What is that?
Well, I think first of all, one of the things that I find so interesting, and that entrepreneurs, as we know, like you're an entrepreneur, right, Marcia?
Oh
You know,
yeah.
you have got a lot of grit, a lot of high risk tolerance, and you'll work 24/7. What I'm realizing, like with family businesses, sometimes the entrepreneur, often he can't work for anyone else or she can't work for anyone else. They want to do their own thing, but they want all of their kids to work together.
Yes.
So a lot of our work is focused around that. How can you be helpful in continuing to do what you love to do? So a lot of our work starts with purpose. What
Right.
is each person's purpose? And so I've done a lot of work on my own purpose, which happens to be helping others to find their voice, claim their voice, and make wise choices. So for me, understanding your voice, your strengths, your superpowers and your Achilles heel, your kryptonite, and then also being able to make those choices that are good for you and for the business and for the whole.
And have you noticed a change in the age of when that happens? Like I see a lot more people more confident today than they did like 15 years ago.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
one way, but I also see a lot of afraid to speak up on certain things too, because I don't have as many people having a conversation on the phone. They'll have the conversation via text. So that has changed. The confidence has gone up, but the way to basically deliver the message has gone, I think, sideways.
Another good point. Well, and so much of our work is really helping families lean into those really emotional, uncomfortable conversations. So that is just a really core part of the work. As far as what I
Mhm.
notice, I think what you're saying, it's helping families to come together around the table and have the real conversations, not just via text or indirect. We talk about not triangling. We give a lot of communication tools, but I think just coming together and having those really honest, frank conversations is where it's at.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to do that, but it takes time and a lot of practice behind it as well. And then, obviously you always love having, family businesses join your forces. How do they get to know about you? How do they find you?
Yeah. Well, I sometimes think we're one of the best kept secrets, but we've been around for since 1992. So I've been here for 32 years,
Wow.
and we've done over 200 forums. So I think one of the ways folks get to know us, primarily it's word of mouth. They usually have to hear from us from about 5 or 6 different folks, and they hear that we do these programs, educational programs. We bring in other families to tell their successes and failures, their journeys. And often that's a unthreatening way to meet us, because sometimes families can feel like, oh, we're dysfunctional if we need to talk with a family business advisor. Well, I think we're like the gym, if
Yeah.
you're really healthy, you'll want to anticipate and move into those kind of engagements. So most folks hear about us from other people. We do have an advisory network. You're part of that. We have 8 or 9 different firms, but we still think we're kind of a best kept secret. So
I think you are as well. And I think it's also nice to see that you're out there. But I think lots of times when I talk to a family owned business, they're like, I've never heard of them. And it's interesting because it's like EO and all, people haven't heard of EO, and people haven't heard of, other things I'm involved with as well. And it's like, wow, it's right there, but how do you not know these things? So hopefully today we'll get you some more people looking out and saying, "Hey, I want to hear more about this." So that's the whole purpose of these podcasts. So let's talk about your journey and all too. I mean, you work a lot of hours. You're putting out a lot of events and all. How do you take care of you?
Well, that has always been really important to me. In fact, that's one reason that growing up, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So, I have very high standards for myself, and I've had to learn over the years to really to take care of myself, and that just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. So I've created pretty strict boundaries for me as far as self-care, like when I go to bed, when I get up in the morning. Of course, this is all in the past 3 years.
Right.
At certain times you can't do that. But I think having a strong support network, family, I have always have had coaches,
Mm,
mentors, and sleeping. I think that's so important to sleep. So I make sure I do that, and also self-care. I think just playing. I love to play with my grandkids and get together with my kids and doing things that are really playful, because this work is it's emotionally challenging. As much
yeah.
as I love it and I feel like it's really my calling. I feel like this is a marketplace ministry. It's sacred work, but the self-care is so important, and that's something that I really encourage all the leaders that I work with
Hmm.
to make sure they care for themselves.
Yeah, it's hard. I think as a workaholic, which I know I confess I am, it is hard to put that time on you. Now, I know a lot of my colleagues, are very successful entrepreneurs. They they are driven with that work. You know, athletic ability, shall I say, and they're runners, they're marathon, they just don't run. They do like, the Ironmans and they do weightlifting and they compete. And I mean, they're really, really into I'm into pickleball right now, so I'm happy I'm even doing that. And that's been a lot of fun to get the aggressions out, but you can't hit it too hard, otherwise it goes out of the line. But I'm learning that, but it has been fun. It's just you taking the time to do it, and it's like anything else, like, you make a priority for all the things in your calendar, you have to do that for yourself as well, and you have to make time because I realize being in my mid-50s now, the body's changing, the
Mhm.
brain is changing,
Yep.
and you gotta keep it as comfortable as possible, and it's funny, I was just watching the Netflix series, about the blue zones. It's about people, Centaurians, who have lived to be 100 years old, and there are certain blue zones around the world of why how come these people in these certain blue zones have lived to be 100 or more. And it was such simple things such as they take the stairs every day. They don't really have a lot of furniture. They get off the ground every day. They eat beans almost every day. They have certain things. One of them drinks wine all the time. But it's pure wine. It's not any preservatives and stuff like that in it. They eat a lot of vegetables. They eat meat. It was really fascinating to see all those different things, and the biggest thing is, like, keeping busy as well as friendships and, and taking care of others, and I sat there like, "Wow, interesting," because I think through 2020, we become a very lonely, isolated, world, and I think that's actually gonna do us so much more damage because the more things we do together and I think with the family planning, like, you have an opportunity to work together as a family, as a unit, and you have to get rid of all that, the emotion piece of it and really focus on what's our purpose? What's our goal here? How can we work together instead of so separately? So, I think you definitely have your challenge in front of you. So
Mm.
kudos for being around this long and keeping it moving, but it's always interesting to hear what's happening out there for sure. Um, what do you see about the future for like just the entrepreneurship overall? Like where do you see it going?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because in my world, since I'm working with family businesses, I work a lot with founders or with co-preneurs, spouses working together, second, third, fourth, fifth, on up through sixth generation.
Right.
So for me, and sometimes I'm working with helping the next generation learn that they're not going to have the opportunity to own themselves unless they go off, and do their own or have the support of the family. So a
Right.
lot of our work is helping them to learn to collaborate and work together and not think, have an ownership mentality, but learn how to really collaborate. And that is such a and by the way, I have a very collaborative style of leadership. I work, with and through people. It's not, top down.
Oh yeah.
So as far as entrepreneurship, it's really helping sometimes, not always, but sometimes next generation folks they're a little bit shy to speak up. I see both sides. They're either shy to speak up because they want to be very respectful and very loyal. And
Yes.
then there's the other side where like they can't wait, to get mom, dad, grandpa out of the scene and do their own thing. So it's helping each to kind of strike that middle ground, and personalities are so different. So I think for me, it comes back to helping them just be really clear about who they are, their strengths, and where they're
Mhm.
headed. And then if it doesn't, if the path, the best path forward for them and their family isn't through the business, maybe they can help bring proposals to the family, and that can move forward in lovely ways. So yeah, it's kind of the world that I live in.
Yeah, I bet it is. It's like playing chess, what's your next move gonna be, right? And figuring out how to really help a client to not only be successful in the business, but also navigate with the family. Like, I'm lucky, I'm the only shareholder, so I'm very fortunate. And, I can make the decisions and do everything, but it's still hard having a family with decisions around all that. I can't even imagine having, like, your brothers and sisters in the business, and they all have a say, and then you might think you're better than them, and this person's in the wrong role, and this person made a just dumb mistake over here. That's really hard to navigate and go through because obviously the founder wanted this great place and this great
Mhm,
organization to last forever and everybody be kumbaya, but
mhm.
and you and I both know, second and especially third generation, really hard to keep that momentum going.
And
So for sure.
sometimes, the next generation gets caught in
Yes.
somebody else's dream. So that's one of the pieces rather than building on what that
Yes.
is. I think the other thing we do, and we're pretty good at it, is we help to develop outside boards, that can include family members, but also outside independent directors.
Yeah.
So that's huge for family businesses. And often they don't do that until the third generation. And I think it's pretty important to think about that when you're headed for, the second generation.
Oh, I agree. I have 2 friends of mine that were second generation, and they knew that their kids didn't wanna be a part of it. And so they didn't wanna sell because I think they were probably disappointing their parents,
Mhm.
but they did sell because they knew that it wasn't gonna go in that hands, and they wanted the people to be taken care of, you know? And I was asking the one in particular, I'm like, "How did it feel?" And she said it was like surreal, because I never thought I'd be here doing this, but I know they'll be in good hands, but that was never my intention, but it just so happens that, I have one daughter and she didn't want it. And so I have to think about the longevity of the business. So it's a big decisions like that you have to take
Yeah.
and making sure it's the right thing. But it is interesting time for sure because I think we're gonna go into a rocky age in the 30s in regards to the economy and all, because there's no way we can keep up with what we're going through right now.
Mm.
But I do think that, it'll be interesting for the entrepreneurs and how they, I guess, navigate the waters through that.
Mm. Well, the other thing I should mention is spouses. Often, spouses or partners, they're not sure where they fit in the whole enterprising family deal. And I think it's very important that their voice gets heard. And that's something we did earlier than most of the other family business, advisory firms across the nation, across the world, that including in appropriately, so that we can hear their voice because they have a huge stake. I mean, their kids are part of what's going to be the path forward for them, as we develop family employment policies, owner policies, all of those types of things. And so we actually call, and you know this, Marcia, we call spouses first round draft picks. So they play a special role. So it's
They
a special
do,
thing.
if they understand sometimes too.
That's Yeah, or
Yeah.
they can work, with, or they can be powerfully toxic as well if you don't give them a proper voice.
Yes, agreed. And then sometimes it's hard too because, a funny story. I had my business for 10 years and we were at dinner for Mother's Day dinner and I was with my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law, my aunt on my husband's side. And we're showing them pictures of one of our town halls. We had a hoedown and everybody's dressed in cowboy boots and, the little flannels and stuff like that. And, my husband's not my husband, but my brother-in-law was like, "Oh, this is so great. Who are all these people?" And I just sat there laughing. I'm like, "Ah, they're my employees." And he goes, "Wait a minute. I thought it was just you." And I said, "We've been on a vacation for 10 years, and it took you till now to realize I have employees?" And he's like, "Yeah, I always thought it was just you." And I
Huh,
sat there like, "Wow." So it's a lot of times, obviously, I don't talk about it at the dinner table much, right? But it is funny how there's a perception if you don't really talk about it and, it's like, "Hey, look at me. That's not kinda who I am." But it's fascinating, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure other entrepreneurs
great.
go through the same thing, and they don't realize, how large a company has gone and whatever, and the challenges and the problems that they have and all. So it is an interesting conversation over dinner sometimes for sure, you know? That's why it's so cool to have a forum of other entrepreneurs because you just have to have
Yes,
your Goombas around you to understand how to pay payroll and when payroll doesn't come in on time.
that's right.
So,
Don't go it alone. It takes a village.
absolutely. How do people get a hold of you or somebody within Delaware Valley Family Business Center?
Yeah. Well, let's see. They could Google me. Our website is dvfbc.com for Delaware Valley Family Business Center. They can reach out, call me, email me. Should I give my any more information, Marcia? Or
Yeah, what's your email, Sal?
email is Sally, Sally, at dvfbc.com.
Easy enough. And then I know that you're a continuous learner and love to learn like I do. What are you currently reading right now?
So I'm the type that usually has three different books going on, but I think the one that I read that was the best, and it is in the industry, but the Family Business Handbook, the
Oh,
HBR, that's an excellent one. That was our theme book from last year.
wow.
And oh, Jodi Picoult book I recently read for fun. I love her.
Fun.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Patrick Lencioni. Huge
Oh,
fan.
yeah.
So Humble, Hungry, Smart. The five
Yes.
types of meetings. I'm a big fan. And Brene Brown. Always listening to her podcasts as well.
Patrick was interesting. I saw him live at a EOS conference that they had out in Orlando, and he is just as dynamic as he is in person as he is on tape. And he was just full of energy. And I was like, wow, he really had quite a bit of it. But he was like, that was a great conversation that we had with the EOS chapters. And so much fun, but I'm a big believer in that too, but yeah, I'm the same way. I must have, like, 5 books open at all time, but I don't do a lot of, like, for fun reading, I do more of, like, I gotta constantly be learning something. So, do you prefer a book or Audible?
I'm a book. I love to underline. I'm still a highlighter, and yeah, that's who I am. I listen to a lot of podcasts as
Oh,
well.
that's great. Yeah, I'm a little bit of both. I literally like both, I like my podcast and I like the book, and sometimes, like, I'm waiting in a doctor's office, I just bring out a Kindle and be like, I'm just gonna read a few pages, and get moving on there. But it's so funny. Like, do you ever finish your books? I'm like, eventually. I said, but I do like learning so many different things and especially about history. So, which is really cool. Um, and one last tip that you would have for an entrepreneur in today's age, what's that one word they need to have to make it?
I think curiosity and openness. I just think I don't, the most difficult people to work with, and I think are people that are just so certain about everything. So I think curiosity and openness, and it goes along with the continuous learning, one of my core values as well. And there's always people to, surround yourself with good people. And my team, I didn't say anything about my team, but my team is just awesome. And thank you, Marcia. You've helped to build the team. You found Anna, she's a rock star, and we
Awesome.
continue to build out. So you're not alone. Anyone who's on this journey, you're not alone. There's plenty around to. I'd love to talk with anyone who's interested in talking about family business or just life or business in general.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with all that right now too, but it's extremely emotional in there, and there's a lot of dynamics that you don't realize that happen until you're in it, kind of a thing. So definitely reach out to Sally. She's a wealth of information, been doing it a long time, obviously, knows what she's doing. And like I said, and definitely check out their new website. It's beautiful for that. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up here today. Again, guys, this is top three where entrepreneurs share their secrets and mistakes. But listen, we all have secrets. We all have mistakes. We live and we learn. And you know what? We're here together to hang out with each other and really share that one or two gold nuggets to help your day get moving. But like I said, Sally has a lot of gold nuggets. So feel free to reach out to her anytime possible, even if it's just an individual business too. She knows quite a bit out there and she could share that information and she's willing to have a conversation with you. So feel free to do that. Sally, thanks for being on the show today. And until next time, guys, keep on plugging. Keep on going because we believe in you. All right. Take care.